my name is Amanda, and this is my discussion for week 1. So discuss 4 specific ways you plan on working to be culturally competent. Obviously, taking this class, even though it is required, it's not required that I pay attention or do my best, but it is my job as a future counselor to ingest all this information and learn as much as possible that I can. Especially with the definitions. I mean, there's so many different definitions out there, and on one hand it's great, right, because it's helped us understand things and all this such things. But on the other hand too, there's a lot of different labels. It can be confusing, what's the difference between race and ethnicity, and even though we're learning all about it, do other people know what the differences are as well? So not only educating ourselves but educating others too, so people understand maybe even what they're talking about, not just clients obviously, but just people, in the world. Another way that I can be culturally competent is once I graduate from this course, doing continuous education. There's all kinds of conferences and all kinds of different research and all different things that we can do as counselors to continue our education. As the world changes, we have to adapt. It's an ever-changing world out there, so we have to make sure that we are on it, understanding which is possible. Another way I can be culturally competent is obviously explore my own personal biases. As we all know, biases are a natural part of life. We're human. They're usually formed by past experiences or environment, those types of things. So it's important we're able to identify those and then combat those and navigate a way that we can think outside of those. And then lastly, another way during this course I can be culturally competent is not just skimming these videos and just putting random comments on there to get through the assignment, but actually watching the videos in full, understand people's opinions, maybe understand other people's potential cultures, and navigating that as well. Even now, it's a great opportunity to ask questions. If someone says something in a discussion where you I would like to learn more about that, asking questions and being curious is always a good way to do that. Some challenges I might encounter. Obviously, no matter how much we learn, we'll never know enough. So if it gets to be in a session and you have a client and they bring up some aspect of their culture that maybe you're completely unfamiliar with, figuring out how you want to tackle that topic. Do you want to, because in a way it's not their job to explain their culture to us. Some people understand that their cultures are niche and different and are super open to talking about their cultures, but other people aren't. So trying to figure out if it's appropriate to ask questions in that moment or wait till the session is done and do your own research and just figuring out how you can best treat that client. Another challenge you may encounter is obviously certain biases you might have. You may think that you've combated all your biases, and then one may come up mid-session. So then it's important to think, okay, what is this person actually saying to me compared to what I think they're going to say? Those kinds of things. Ways I'll work on my own biases. Honestly, just being completely honest with myself. I'm sure as this class goes, topics will come up in yeah, that is me, or oh, that isn't me at all, and kind of exploring how I can utilize those things to combat my own biases and being honest with myself. Another way, how you might examine your own cultural identity. So actually in the beginning of my intro, I kind of talked about, is cultural identity just about culture with ethnicity and race, or is it larger than that? And as we already learned, it's larger than that. So I may not think I have a huge culture because I'm white, Caucasian, I'm American. Our culture, I'm not from, Europe or anywhere else where we have specific unique holidays we celebrate or cultures or those types of things. I speak English. I learned other languages in high school, but I don't speak other things fluently at home. So to me, I always thought I didn't have much culture. And I always hated that because I love, when the people in school and high school would be like, this weekend my family has this holiday going on. It's from our hometown, from wherever they're from, and they would tell about it. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I wish I had something to share like that. But culture isn't to stop there, I have a culture and the way I communicate with others. My circle is my culture. My workspace is my culture. You know, my gender is my culture. There's so many different things that can go into culture, so I can kind of, in this class, I hope to learn more about my own personal culture, and then in that case also learn about my privileges and my you know, where I might be considered a minority or I might be considered an underprivileged individual. So learning about those types of things and what goes into the culture that I hold. How will you use information to get through your own self-examination and your increased awareness of cultural factors and identity? And then what film stood out to you the most from this week? I believe by film we're talking about the information that was the different videos that were posted. If I'm wrong, please let me know. The implicit bias one was pretty big, especially when it comes to like reading materials, you know, growing up, especially as someone who was white. I didn't really notice that all the books we read are by white authors. I didn't really notice. It wasn't something that I completely picked up on. Even being a woman, I didn't pick on the fact that they were all men writers. It was just, oh, well, that's just normal, you know? So seeing that and examining that and realizing, you know, it's important to learn different opinions, because if we're getting it all, like, people's stories may be different, but they also may not resonate and relate to other people. So it's important to navigate how we can get all individuals involved. I remember when we had our, I forget what they called it, but it was during group dynamics class where we did the 5-hour sessions where we had different discussion topics that are really difficult, and we learned to talk about difficult things, and one of them being race. And that kind of got brought up during this time, you know, because culture is a challenging topic for me overall, because like I said, I don't feel like I have much culture, so I've always kind of just like stepped away from the conversation and avoided the conversation, not because I don't think it's important, but because I always didn't think I was important enough to have the conversation, because I didn't have a culture. So all the films honestly really challenged me this week when it came to that, because it's like, oh, like maybe I do have a culture, you know, and it may compare to other people's cultures and even people in my circle, you know. It just makes you really reflect on yourself, I think. Yeah, and I learned a lot from your guys' videos too, obviously, for talking about what film stood out to you the most this week, maybe for talking about other people's videos. I watched a few different videos talking about, you know, their own biases and things like that, and it kind of stood out to me that I'm not alone when I feel the way I feel, so kind of learning about that too was good to know. And then when it talks about, like, we talk about cultural competencies in the slideshow, having an ethic or moral or professional duty, and then also having, when it comes to explore our own biases, evaluate our values, and then educate ourselves on diverse groups. Obviously, those are really important when it comes to being a counselor and an individual in the counseling world. Our competencies are to have awareness overall, obviously, and then also continue to have that maintenance aspect. So continue to stay competent throughout our time. So in the question, how will you talk about how will you use information to get through your own self-examination and your increased awareness of cultural effectiveness in your clinical work with clients? Since I know my own biases and I know my own identity, I know where I stand, I know where I relate, I know where I don't relate. And then on top of that, I know where I might have misinformation. So then trying to combat misinformation, relate where I can, and then listen where I can't. Those kinds of things.